Jacko here, and it's me on the voiceover, me in there as well. Look on my knees. I'm about to go through some pike push-up positions. So starting off with, from our straight line and our push-up, we want to be taking our feet closer towards our hands and stick the bum up in the air. Our job is we're trying to stick, you can't until we raise our feet up, but we're trying to stick the bum over closer towards the shoulders to try and make this vertical pushing position. Then the thing that I like to do is get up onto the toes. That just lifts the bum a little bit higher. So if I just show, if we just go back, a link of where the hip position is here, as soon as we go up onto the toes, we just nudge it that a little bit further along, and now we're starting to shift it closer over towards where the hands are. So that's our job. And then the other thing I'm trying to do is this rotation that happens at the shoulder. If I just take it back a little bit, if you know, with that line drawn there, it happens at the shoulder, but it's the elbow that starts to point slightly more behind you rather than sticking out to the side. That lets you get your shoulder into a good position rather than it's kicking out to the sides, which is when the triceps and sort of shoulders are a bit weak, we will go into that shape. So that's something to bear in mind. Then our job is to lower down, take this body angle, and we should see where the head position is. It should make a triangle with the hands if we stay on that same body shape or body line. And depending on the flexibility of your hamstrings, the angle that your body is able to make here is going to be dictated by a little bit by your hamstring flexibility. So it's important that we do work on our hamstring flexibility so we can get into a good shape. Once I've maintained the position, you can see here that the elbows are pointing at sort of 45 degrees-ish angle, let's say, for argument's sake, but they're certainly not flaring out to the side this way. That puts the shoulder in a nice position, and then our job here is to control that shape. And then the angle that we came down on is going to be the angle that we go back up at, boom, up to the start. So I should be tracking up and down that angle, and see that. So exactly the same position we started with up onto the toes and the hip nice and high in the position we're at before. As I say, the angle that your body is going to be able to make here is going to be dictated by your hamstring flexibility. One thing I would say about myself to try and improve is this here. You can see that actually a little bit too, probably more rounded than I would like, and I would like to have a flatter, more extended thoracic spine position here, but we've all got stuff to work on. Things that sometimes go wrong, we might get in the right starting shape, but as we come down, we descend nicely. So we said we're trying to go down, we're going down on this diagonal that the body line was on, and we're supposed to be going back up at the same angle. But often if we're not strong enough in the shoulders and the triceps, rather than pushing vertically upwards, we'll make it into a horizontal position, and what you'll see is the body will shoot upwards here, there, and then we'll start to move backwards to the start position there. And then you can see, look how far back we've rocked onto heels, pretty much will be touching the floor. And then think about where that hip position is compared to our start position, because then I'll go back to, that's where the start position was. So the hip was over here and we're much further up onto the toes. Something else that can go badly wrong, and I find it difficult to demonstrate this because it really isn't good for your shoulders, and mine certainly don't like it, is rather than these elbows sort of tracking on that diagonal 45 degrees behind us, what sometimes happens is we let them kick out to the side when we don't do that rotation from the shoulder a little bit more like this. Yeah, so what we want is that sort of ripping and gripping of the floor to create this rotation happening at the shoulder, which is external rotation, engaging all the good stuff around it as part of the rotator cuff to stabilize and put that shoulder in a good position. If we don't get that, what tends to happen is these elbows will shoot out to the sides if we don't do that, and we get into a really bad position. I've now bent my knees because I don't want to load up my shoulders in that position. It's not good. You can see that there's elbows flaring out to the side means also that the head of the humerus at the shoulder, if I showed you like a different angle, you'd see it much more clearly. But that is not a good position for the shoulder that we want to get into. And also the head, if I just go back, the head, and when we do that, often it's because people are trying to take the head straight down between the hands rather than that diagonal forward and the head making a triangle with the hands. So that's a nice cue. Screwing the shoulder so the elbow points more backwards rather than that side, and making sure that head is making that triangle with the hands. So that's what we don't want to do. So we want to be nice and high. We want to come down on that angle that we started, and we're going to go back up on that same angle to the hip in the same position. I probably rocked back ever so slightly. I could be a little bit higher on my toes, couldn't I? And that hip could be a little bit higher up. There you go. There's that adjustment that I just made. So we go back down and then drive back up. That was a much better one to finish. You actually saw there that the hip ended up in the. If I just go, let's go back to this start position and just see that one more time. So we can actually make that mark. There's your hip, there's my foot, and then we should try and make a line. There's the body line that we should be going down. So do we track that down, and do we come back to it? Boom, there we go. There is some technique tips for your pike push-up. If you film it side on like this, you get to see that start position and end position should be exactly the same. If you've got this little app, that means you can actually draw on it and see the differences and check where you actually get to. I was pretty happy with that one, I didn't realise it was actually that spot on. But that is the pike push-up. Very, very important for vertical pushing strength, particularly for your frog to handstand. If you look at the bottom position that you get into here, if you ignore where the legs are, but if you imagined that we stuck those knees on those elbows, that would look like a very high hip position of a frog stand. And that's why this head position being slightly forward of the hands is exactly where we need to get to for building strength to press out of our frog to handstand. So if you're working on pressing out of your frog to handstand, I definitely recommend having this in the locker, pausing when you get to the bottom of those positions, and build up your vertical pushing strength very specifically for the frog to handstand for that. As you progress, you can put your feet up on higher boxes. We can also put the hands higher up on a surface so the head can go even lower than where the hand position is, whereas it's restricted on the floor here. But for a lot of us, we need to make sure that we are getting the standard pike push-up on the floor nailed down for a good number of reps and build up our vertical strength, capacity strength in the vertical plane. And you will benefit a lot from getting these, making sure the technique that you're using for them are as close to perfection or as good a form as possible, and ensuring that the idea of this video is to ensure you know what might go wrong and can make adjustments to carry on improving yourself. I hope that helps you along redefining your impossible. And if you like these types of videos, do let us know, and if it's helpful, and we can do more and more of these technique style videos to show you where we see common problems with certain movements and how to improve and address them. Until next time, class dismissed.